Joining me now, Corey Lewandowski, Trump's former campaign manager, and Joel Rubin. Joel is the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State under President Obama. It's great to see both of you. All right, Corey, I want to start with you because we've heard this buildup now for about kind of 72 hours. I mean, in earnest. The buildup, and we're going to play a little montage of the media declaring that what's happened with Mattis resigning, and we have a segment coming up on that, but Mattis resigning, the partial government shutdown, so far no wall funding, which means, of course, the end. Let's watch.
Is this the beginning of the end of what we have known as the Trump presidency? History will see this moment after the Jim Mattis resignation repudiation as perhaps the beginning of the end of this presidency as we know it.
It really is a presidency in crisis like we haven't seen.
I mean, we could have played another 4 or 5 sound bites, which I actually thought we had there, but this is the drumbeat. I mean, the Republicans are starting to abandon him. The Wall Street Journal is criticizing him. Allies are up in arms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Where does this stand now, Corey? Any issues with messaging that can be tweaked or changed to get the narrative, Trump's in charge, he's protecting the country?
Well, look, Laura, it's very simple. This president made a pledge during the campaign. I think it was his biggest pledge that he made. It received the largest amount of applause on the campaign trail, and now he has to fulfill it, which is to build the wall on the southern border. And the weak Republican leadership for the last 2 years in Congress have failed to deliver it. They asked the president not to shut down the government before the midterm elections because they were fearful it was going to hurt them in the midterms, and they promised to put the funding for the wall after the midterm elections. And once again, they failed the American people, and the president said, we've had enough. And because of your show and Jim Jordan coming on saying, fool me once, shame on me, fool me 4 times, shame on you, the president saw that and said, we can't tolerate this. And he knows if we don't get the funding for the wall now, it will never come to fruition.
Joel, how do the Democrats go to the voters in the country? We know that we spend $18 billion a year on health care for illegal immigrants. We spend billions more on public education. We're compassionate people, and that's just what we do. But the Democrats can't find $5 billion to get the border fortification going in the form of a wall, enhanced fencing, et cetera. Why are we worried about other countries' borders and not focusing on our own, Joel?
Well, Laura, we are worried about the American border, and there is over $1 billion that was already agreed to on a bipartisan basis by the Senate in a unanimous vote on Wednesday supporting border security. And I have to say, we got to remember that the applause line wasn't just about building the wall. It was that Mexico would pay for it. And now the president's asking the American people to pay for it. I don't want to pay for a border wall, and most of Americans don't.
But you're fine with paying for the $18 billion a year for health care? That's cool with you?
I think that when you have people living in this country, we need to make sure that they're not unhealthy
walking around. Okay, so you're all right with that. All right.
But, I mean, the key thing here is that this border wall doesn't have the votes, and it's going to have less votes in about 2 weeks. So the votes aren't there. It's theoretical. They're not going to get the money from this Congress. They haven't for 2 years. So why are we shutting down the government for a vote that won't work in the president's favor?
Well, we deal in the realm of facts. So we have 25% of the government, non-essential employees, non-essential services are covered under this shutdown. And, Corey, every time I hear non-essential, I think, well, why are these people in the government at all? Every time it's like a skeleton crew. We only need these people.
What does that mean? We don't really need you is what it means.
This is
we don't really need you, and so just stay home.
Yeah,
it's craziness.
Look, it's also such a scam. As you know, when they have these non-essential employees stay home, and many of them are very good people, and they stay home for the extra day, when the government reopens, we back pay them for all the days they didn't come to work. So it's not like we saved any money in the whole thing, right? But look, here's the thing. The American people will pay for the wall. We've seen that through the GoFundMe, which has now been running for 3 or 4 days, and they've raised, $10, $11, $12 million. The American people will pay for security. The families who've had loved ones killed by illegal immigrants coming across that border will pay for the wall. You ask the American people to pay for it. We have the money. It's a $4 trillion budget. The Cash for Clunkers program under the Obama administration was a $3 billion boondoggle to take people's cars away and just throw money in the trash. You're telling me we can't do that to protect American people?
Yeah, well, I got to say to both of you, though, I mean, again, this is from the Democrats to the Republicans. I say a pox on both parties. I think both have handled this abysmally. It is abysmal handling of a national crisis at our southern border, humanitarian, environmental, economic, national security. I think both parties have really failed the American people here. Both of you have a wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.